Hello everyone, and thank you for taking the time to watch our Physical Geography 101 Hazard Tour video. Our trip starts at a very familiar location, Pasadena City College, located in the beautiful San Gabriel Valley. From here it's just a quick helicopter ride over the Los Angeles Basin to Los Angeles International Airport. Flights depart from our first location hourly, so you shouldn't have any problem getting there. Our first stop takes us 2,459 miles across the Pacific Ocean to the Big Island of Hawaii. We will land at Hilo International Airport, which is directly adjacent to the city of Hilo. Hilo is the largest settlement on the island of Hawaii and has a population of over 43,000 people as of the last census in 2010. As on all of the islands, Hilo also boasts some of the most incredible beaches and lagoons to explore. Another spectacular point of interest on the Big Island are the Mauna Kea observatories on the dormant Mauna Kea volcano. It may not look like a traditional volcano, but the pumice cones scattered around are a good indicator. These 13 observatories have been completely funded by 11 different countries working together on the summit. The peak at Mauna Kea is almost 14,000 feet tall, but when measured from the ocean floor, it is over 33,000 feet tall. That makes it considerably taller than even Mount Everest. In fact, it is the world's tallest mountain from base to summit. Don't worry about an eruption here, though, as there hasn't been any activity on Mauna Kea for over 5,000 years. While we're discussing volcanoes, we'll go ahead and move over to our next location, which is also our first hazard. This is the home of the Kilauea volcano, one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. Kilauea is sometimes called the world's only drive-in volcano, as there are over hundreds of miles of roads and hiking trails that will take you through volcanic craters, rainforests, and even lava tubes that you can walk inside of. Kilauea has been erupting continuously since January 3, 1983. It produces 250,000 to 650,000 cubic yards of lava per day. That's enough, just to put it in perspective, to resurface a 20-mile-long, 2-lane road every single day. Natives and tourists alike must know what to do in the event of a major eruption. There are warning systems in place, but these events can still be very hard to predict. A significant spike in seismic activity would be good evidence of impending danger, and it might be better to avoid the island entirely at that point. Every person must know evacuation routes and safe places together, even when traveling through paradise, and it is the city's duty to be sure everyone is notified. The other concern with seismic activity, and water of course, is the threat of a tsunami. Evacuation routes and processes must be in place as well. Making sure that everyone in the city is notified of the threat as soon as possible is essential in saving lives and getting people to higher ground. Tsunamis can take several hours to hit after an earthquake, which unfortunately gives people a false sense of security. Our next location takes us 4,700 miles east, back across the U.S., to the beautiful city of Miami Beach, Florida. Miami is home to gorgeous beaches, amazing Art Deco architecture, and some very beautiful people as well. Miami Beach has a population of almost 87,000 people, and it has been one of America's most traveled to beach resort destinations since the early 20th century. The city itself was built on both natural and man-made barrier islands, and as you can see from this vantage, it separates the Atlantic Ocean from the Biscayne Bay. The city of Miami is off to the right, separated from Miami Beach by the bay. As we look up north from Miami, you can see that the most dense population is along the coast, with nothing to separate and protect the land from our second hazard, the hurricane. Local hurricanes are created in the warm South Atlantic and Caribbean waters, between 6 to 15 degrees north latitude, and they are the most powerful and destructive forces in the world. The conditions must be ideal to transform a tropical storm or depression into a full-fledged hurricane. Hurricanes form as warm, moist air rises from the sea and is replaced by cooler air that spirals down rapidly from high in the atmosphere. This creates a rotating circulation that forms the hurricane, and the condensation formed by the warm waters will continue to fuel it with the massive release of energy. Most recently, we've seen the damage caused by Hurricane Matthew, which formed just off the northern tip of Caracas in South America. The latitude at this location when Matthew was still a tropical storm was around 13 degrees north latitude, with water temperature in the low to mid-80s. These ideal conditions quickly transformed Matthew into a Category 3 and then 4 hurricane. Matthew took an aggressive turn towards the north, up into the Caribbean, and it looked as if it might pass directly between Jamaica and Haiti, but that wasn't the case. Unfortunately, the eye of Matthew passed directly over the western tip of Haiti, killing more than 1,000 people. Most of the deaths were attributed to people not wanting to leave, deciding rather to hunker down and wait out the storm. These were also rural farming communities, where resources like an evacuation center or transportation might not have been available. In the U.S., this isn't only a risk for Florida, as much of the Atlantic coast at one time or another has been hit by a hurricane. Hurricanes are very slow moving, so getting evacuation notices out as quickly and as often as possible is extremely important. Evacuating the elderly and infirmed, which is common in Florida, is also essential. Making sure that people have water and other supplies is very critical, as items like this will not be easily available in the event of a disaster. An evacuation plan as well as a rally point is something that should be self-enforced by families throughout the region. Our next stop is the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, which is 950 miles northwest of Miami. Little Rock is the capital of Arkansas and the state's most heavily populated city. The Arkansas River gently glides between the city, and the city itself was named by the French in 1799 after a rock formation along the river. The most famous point of interest in Little Rock is the Capitol building. The building took over 15 years to build and is a replica of the state Capitol building, built in the neoclassical style. Interestingly enough, the Capitol building was built from local Arkansas granite. It contains 6 giant bronze doors and 3 different magnificent chandeliers that were created by Tiffany's of New York. Arkansas's terrain does consist of some small hills to the west, but much of it to the east is quite flat. It lays in what we refer to as the plain states of America, where in some instances you can see for miles and miles in any direction. This takes us to our third and final hazard, the tornado. You might be wondering what it takes to create a tornado. Well, the first place we need to look is south to the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. These warm, moist air fronts head north into the plain states, where they will eventually form massive thunderstorms called supercells, which can rise over 40,000 feet in the air. More than warm, moist air is needed, though, so next we have to look to the north. This is where cool, dry air from Canada drops down into the plain states. When these two air masses meet, they create instability, with the warm, moisture-laden air rising and the cool, dry air rapidly dropping. Wind shear is formed horizontally, and moisture and hail can force this supercell to touch down as a tornado. These central plain states are a region that is referred to as Tornado Alley, for obvious reasons. Scientists are always working on ways to predict tornadoes, but it's very difficult to know exactly where they will form. They do have the technology to know when the probability is very high, and in that case it would always be best to avoid certain areas. If you're ever caught in a tornado warning, always seek shelter immediately. Most injuries come from flying debris, so protecting your head while you're running is a very good idea. It's best to get to some type of safe room, like a basement or storm cellar, or the lowest level in any building. Make sure to stay as low as possible, covering your head and lying face down, and at all costs, stay away from windows. As always, make sure that you arrange ahead of time a safe place to meet with family and friends after the storm. Well, I'm sorry to say, but this concludes our hazard tour for today, as we head back to LAX. I want to thank you all for taking the time to come along on this journey with us, and we hope that you learned something and had a good time as well. Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.